Hey, all you ethic cuties and the 40% of you who have still not subscribed to the Ethics Verse, now's the time to do it. Welcome to the coolest place to be every Thursday at noon Eastern. If you think fixing our workplace can fix our world, I am so pumped for today's session. I got a real treat for you. I got the one and only Cara Novelli. We're going to be talking about Compliance Week, cost-effective strategies to prep for the best Compliance Week your organization has ever had. So if you've done Compliance Week in the past, you're going to get some new tips today. And if you've never done it, now is the time to start thinking about it. We got a ton of great strategies for you. So as always, we're trying to break our emoji record. So keep those coming every time you hear something cool, funny, or dumb. Just no thumbs down, please. Let's dive in. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Ethics Verse. We give away thousands of CEUs every single month. So if you're with SHRM or you have your certification through HCCA or SCCE, or you're with HRCI, this is the place to be to get some free CEUs. So make sure that you're signed up for the Ethics Verse so you can get the slides and you can get the CEUs. Also make sure that you are constantly feeding your brain. I talk about this all the time. You should always be reading something because what does my mom always say? Readers are leaders, and she was so right. So we're going to be updating our library. Todd Haw put out a really cool list of some great books. Some of those are my favorites. Some of those I just added to my own to-read list. So we're going to be updating the library. And of course, whenever you get selected for the world famous book giveaway, you of course can grab the book that we're featuring for the day, but you also can pick anything from the library. So as always, that world famous book giveaway is in live effect. So drop your comments, questions, ideas in the chat. This should be a very collaborative session. We all are faced with this, challenge of Compliance Week and driving more engagement with the stakeholders in our organization from whom, like I said, whom instead of who, from whom we want to crowdsource that risk intelligence so we can actually do our job. So there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity to get creative in Compliance Week. Our world famous podcast, fastest growing ethics podcast in the world, top 2% global podcast. Round of applause to the team who puts that on. We just get great thought leaders on there. I want to share our most recent episode with you, Elizabeth Wilkes Wood. So you can always check these out on your favorite podcast network, or you can check them out on YouTube. But here's a little taste.
What I tend to find in these pivotal points in my career is there's either a comfort space where you just kind of go, I can't do it, don't know how to do it, can't do it, find somebody else. Or you go, the fact that it's making my tummy feel a bit funny and I'm really scared probably means that that's the direction in which I should jump. One of the things that I've always known that I'm very good at is I can work really, really hard, and I love doing research. And so as soon as I knew that it wasn't an area that I was comfortable in, I thought, do you know what? The first website I'm going to go to is the French Competition Authority. I wonder if they've published any guidance about what a good compliance program looked like. And thank you, French Authority, they absolutely have. And so I negotiated with the General Counsel a set of undertakings. Within my back pocket was this became my Bible, which is, if that's what you want us to do, we will do everything and more.
So if you have not checked that episode out, it's really good. And I'm not just saying that because I was on it. We always want to get people on that have great experience and great tips. So I will never waste your time. And I guarantee this is going to be a phenomenal episode. Speaking of never wasting your time, the one and only Mary Shirley put out this book. So if you have not bought this yet, then now's your chance to win it. This book is called Level Up, and it's a perfect book for our topic today. This book is full of great ideas on how you can improve your program, improve your impact, and she has an entire chapter that's just on how to get smart with Compliance Week and, again, drive that engagement. So if you have not won this or you've not picked it up from our table at one of the conferences, now's your chance to get it. Or, you know what, if you don't want to participate today, that's fine. You can sit back and listen, but hop over to Amazon and pick it up. I guarantee it's money well spent, but we're going to be giving out 5 of those today. So as I always say, though, drop your LinkedIn URL in the chat. Your network is your net worth. Neither are big enough. And now is the time to expand that network. We have a great asset in this industry that we're all a part of, where it's very collegial, where you can reach out and you can get insights or you can get some tips from somebody. It's a very easy thing. It's right there for you to take advantage of. And part of the whole growth of the Ethics Verse is based on this network and this community that we're building. So jump in the pool, the water is fine. I want to give you a little brief glimpse of our risk assessment tool. So much of our job is to make impact, and so much of our job and so much of our peace of mind comes from knowing that our program is effective or becoming more effective. When we can get real-time risk intelligence from our organization, we can really direct our efforts, because remember Parkinson's law, work's going to fill the available time. So it's not like you don't have enough work to do. The game is, how can I make better bets with my time? And when we have risk assessment that can give us pieces of risk intelligence, we can better direct our efforts and limited resources to those things. So check out this cool risk assessment tool, which we got a special on I'll tell you about in a sec.
Okay, risk assessment season, let's get started. So I'm going to need Google Forms, spreadsheets, emails, calendar.
Introducing Ethico's new risk assessment module, your one-stop solution for managing organizational risk. Our intuitive platform streamlines the entire risk assessment lifecycle. Create customized assessments with our drag-and-drop interface, distribute assessments with secure magic links, and boost completion rates with automated reminders and real-time monitoring. Transform raw data into actionable insights with dynamic heat maps and visual risk matrices. Drill down into critical risk areas requiring immediate attention across your organization. The new risk assessment module for MySIM. Reach out to your client success manager to learn more.
So yeah, reach out, check it out. We've got a no pitch zone demo for you if you're interested. If you missed Frank, the one and only Frank Ruelas was here on Tuesday. If you didn't see our Tuesday session and you're in healthcare, you're going to not want to miss it. So check it out on YouTube. The replay is available. One last little thing I got to plug. I'm going to be talking about this nonstop for the next 2 weeks. Ethics Verse Day is like 2 weeks away, I think. So on the 24th, we're having Ethics Verse Day 2.0. We have a bunch of great speakers coming and a bunch of great prizes, of course, up to 12 CEUs. If you come to any of these 4 sessions, I want to show you this preview. But in the meantime, I just shared a link to my recent LinkedIn post on Ethics Verse Day. So if you reshare that post, you will be part of a drawing for a special prize pack that's going to have a hoodie for when it gets a little bit colder and some books. But check out this really cool preview for Ethics Verse Day. 2 weeks away. Circle your calendar.
On July 24th, the one-day learning event of the summer is returning to a computer screen near you. Ethics Verse Day is back and better than ever. An all-day virtual event packed with guidance from leaders in the ethics and compliance space. 4 epic sessions over 12 CEUs and insights from industry leaders such as, for Session 1, Tom Tipper X Harden, Ellen Coons, Mary Inman, and Sharon Watkins. For Session 2, Matt Kelly, Andrew McBride, and Reed Blackman. For Session 3, Leah Simonton, Scott Hogan, and Matt Axelrod. And this year, we've included a bonus session with Hema Lomax. Don't miss out on the grand return of this prestigious event. July 24th. Register now at ethico.com.
So if you missed last year, you're going to love this year, okay? If you came last year, this year's going to be 10 times better. You got to sign up for it. Wendy, I hit you up on LinkedIn about that, so we'll get you taken care of. All right, let's get one massive emoji explosion to get going here. We got the one and only Cara Novelli. She is a compliance pro over at Robert Half. She has so many great ideas. We have a great presentation today. So welcome, Cara. How's it going?
Hi, Nick. Great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So this is a cool kind of alien geode that we found in our search for, we're just explorers, aren't we? So we're going to dive into this presentation today. So why don't you give us a little intro on what we're going to be talking about today and what the basis for this presentation has been?
So, Nick, when we talked about this during our prep session, I selfishly told you that I'm going to come here and offer up some low-cost, no-cost tips for how to put on an effective Global Ethics Day or Corporate Compliance Week for your companies. But selfishly, I am also here because I know that your audience is so great with sharing their tips and tricks as well. And so I'm here to learn as well from all of you. But I'm hoping that, we'll come out of this. If you haven't already been hosting one or, both of these events, you'll come out with a different perspective on why we should be pushing these types of campaigns internally.
There is so much opportunity in this whole thing, right? I mean, I kind of said it a little bit in the intro. Our job is to crowdsource this risk intelligence from the stakeholders in our organization. That takes their engagement. That takes their, eyes open and the light bulbs turned on what types of things we are trying to look for and what kind of risk intelligence we're trying to gather. And so, Compliance Week is such an awesome opportunity to put a shot in the arm into your program. If you've stepped into a program that maybe has a bad brand because it's, because of whatever, this is the time to kind of rehumanize the program and, just get people kind of talking about it. So there are thousands and thousands of ideas out there. We'll be talking about some of those today. I'm going to share something I made recently in the chat. But Kara, when you're thinking about Compliance Week, how do you keep it fresh, and how do you kind of navigate through we're going to be talking about this at some level, but how do you kind of navigate through the lack of budget excuse that you hear from many practitioners in our space?
It is tough when there are lean years, Nick. I will be very honest with you. It is very tough to find creative ways to drum up that engagement. But I do find, when you don't have anything, you do the best with it. And so I want to talk about some of the different ways that you can leverage, platforms and different teams, things that you already have probably in your back pocket in your library that you didn't realize that you should be using. So I'm going to kick this off first by putting on these two polls here. And actually, for the first poll, I'm asking people, and I actually only want to hear from the no's. I want to hear whether or not you do not celebrate Global Ethics Day or Corporate Compliance Week annually. So if I could see that emoji explosion here and let me know whether or not you are in that no camp. All right. And if you are in that no camp, tell me again, why are you not celebrating? Is it lack of time, resources, and budget? Are you already combining it with your code of conduct training deployment? Is it a lack of interest or buy-in from the senior management? You don't see the need for the event? Or is it an other? If it's an other, please put your details into the chat, because I'm very curious to hear what that other would be if it's not one of the other four that we've already mentioned.
So Tiffany has an answer here as these other ones start to roll in. I freaking love the Ethics Verse chat, man. I can't even keep up with it. I just had it. No, we don't have a compliance department, and I just got tasked with building a compliance department. So this is going to be a great conversation for Tiffany, because what a way to smash that bottle of champagne on the ship that's going to, it's a ship reference, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to launch this ship, this new compliance program, whether it's an existing program or a new program. Now's the time to reinvent it. We have to continually keep it fresh, just like marketing teams do, right? Marketing teams are always changing their ads, and they're changing their commercials, and they're changing their approach to driving more engagement in the stakeholders that, the market that they're trying to influence, to pierce that veil of attention. So making Compliance Week, World Ethics Day, these are all opportunities for us to, break that pattern.
Absolutely. And then the last poll that I have here is, and this is just my being nosy, I want to know whether or not you have a separate or generous budget to host your events. Is it a very generous budget, somewhat moderate, or no budget at all? So I'm just trying to see where people kind of slip into this.
Tina, thank you, Tina. Tina said no money and no time to orchestrate. Deborah said time, staff to help. That's a reason why not to do it. William has a great tip here. Leverage marketing, HR, IT to get the word out. Use your relationships with other leaders to encourage participation. So much of our job, again, this is a people business, right? Whether you're in ethics, compliance, HR, legal, at the end of the day, every business is a people business. And those relationships can really do a lot to pave the way for something meaningful to transpire inside your company. But kind of a recurring theme is a lack of time and a lack of budget.
Yep, and so again, I hear that all the time.
Remember zooming out and getting back to that Parkinson's law thing. We're just constantly making bets with our time, and so we have to somehow carve out. Remember that Eisenhower matrix? We spend so much of our time in that highly urgent, highly important quadrant. But the things that really move the needle and the things that really create leverage for us in our work is working on those important non-urgent things. In Compliance Week, to the extent that that's not part of your annual docket or on your to-do list, this can really be something that can create some real leverage. And one other thing I wanted to say is, you don't have to go nuts with Compliance Week. You can just start small. You can start little by little, and we're going to talk some more about that in a second.
All right. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with, Global Ethics Day and its origin, it actually started back in 2014, and it was created by the Carnegie Council for Ethics and International Affairs. And it's basically just an annual day and an annual event where people and companies and organizations can explore ethics and ethical decision making. So that's the origins of that one. For Corporate Compliance Week, which is usually held at the beginning of November, that one is a little bit older. That's been around since 2005. And the core principles of celebrating Corporate Compliance Week are awareness, recognition, and reinforcement. And so I will say that over the past, I'd say, 3 to 4 years, we have been making diligent efforts at hosting both of these events. And it has been very challenging in some years where, we don't have the budget to bring in an outside speaker. And so it's during those years that, we kind of rely on our SMEs, our VPs, within our company to come and talk to us about certain things. Last year we actually had the benefit of, bringing an external speaker in, and that was very well received. Although there have been prior years where we've had an internal panel, talking about, their different organizations, different topics, stuff that, employees can really relate to. And actually, we talk about, actual reports and cases that come into our hotline. Of course, we anonymize it, but, when you can make it something that the employees can actually relate to or they've experienced, you'll get just a ton more engagement that way. And so I want to make sure that people are also aware, there are other events. If Global Ethics Day, Corporate Compliance, if that is not your thing, Google, corporate compliance events, and you will find a plethora of other events like World Whistleblowing Day, which was just on June 23rd. There's also International Fraud Awareness Week in November. And then we've also celebrated this one, International Anti-Corruption Day in December. So there's no shortage of these types of compliance events that you can kind of dig your teeth into if you don't want to do a full-blown week or try and bring in, a guest speaker for, Global Ethics Day. So I encourage you to Google that, look on the compliance calendars and see what kind of fits best within your program.
But think about it. Like, we have to use everything, right? Like, this is so much a game of attention, and we have to use everything that's available to us. And so you don't have to invent, Global Anti-Corruption Day. That exists. Leaning into that and doing a post in your Teams channel or in Slack about it, or doing something to help kind of move the needle forward or move the ball forward. It's just right there for you. It comes down to, I think, kind of carving out that time and making that bet with, the resources and the allocation of those resources towards something that can raise more awareness. I got a quick question in the chat from Catherine. Catherine, thanks so much for this. She said, we're primarily a remote organization. Help. That she screamed help. Okay. So do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to talk about that in a little bit?
I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but I can say I definitely feel your pain because we too are also remote. We have, some people that come to the office, and, I was thinking back, 5-7 years ago, if I was hosting an event like this, I remember very clearly with my little wagon dragging my, ethics and compliance tchotchkes and my ethics and compliance tablecloth and going to the cafeterias on campus and setting up with my, all my stuff and having people come by and chat with them, which was, great, at that time. But that was obviously pre-COVID, and things have changed a lot since then. So we need to remember our remote audiences, and I am going to touch on that. Before I get into that, I want to talk about, the actual benefits behind all these campaigns for those of you that are still in the no camp. So, as Nick had mentioned, this is a people business. We have to make sure that we're engaging everyone with our message. And so when we host a campaign, we want to make sure that we are getting, immediate interaction. Right. So, and the way we do that is, we have to think about the different modalities. Are your employees sensory learners? Are they visual? Do they have short attention spans? Are micro learnings, the best bet for you? Do they like to read cases, case studies, things like that? You have to figure that out. You have to see, based on your metrics, where are you getting the most engagement? But you cannot get that engagement until you make that first step to interact. And when you do start to interact and get that engagement, you're going to get the knowledge retention that comes along with that, which is such an added benefit. And when you get the knowledge retention and people, reminding themselves like, oh, I think I read about that in our recent, conflict of interest policy, or I think that's on page 20 of our code of conduct where we can, list out all of our reporting channels. I think I've seen that somewhere. That's going to lead to a behavior change. And Nick, I would love to share this anecdote that happened, a few years back at a different company that I was with. We had an engineer who was attending, I believe it was like a CIO conference in a different state. He was actually the only person from the company who was attending that particular conference. And with all conferences, there's always opportunities to win prizes and swag. And this person dropped their business card into, the fishbowl for a raffle. And lo and behold, he ends up winning this raffle, which I believe was like 2 airline tickets, which totaled, I want to say around $5,000. But we had just recently hosted a conflict of interest campaign prior to his going to this conference. And he was really torn. He's like, am I able to accept these gifts? I'm the only one here. Nobody's going to know whether or not I put this into my pocket or not. But because he was the good corporate citizen that he was, he came back, he emailed the Office of Compliance, and he told us what the situation was. So we ran it through all the appropriate channels. We involved his VP. And Nick, can I tell you that his VP was so impressed with his honesty and his integrity for reporting this? Because like I said, he could have just taken those tickets and run. The VP was so impressed that, he recognized him as sort of a compliance hero. I mean, I think he ended up maybe getting like a $50 gift card in recognition of this. It's not it wasn't the $5,000 prize he was hoping for, but he did earn the respect of, his leadership. I believe the CEO was aware that this happened as well. And, I think he ended up winning the Compliance Hero Award for that particular quarter. So this is what I'm saying. Behavior change is real when you have these types of events. Things stick in the back of your mind saying, I think I remember that from somewhere. I think I heard that from somewhere. And so that's why we make the effort to put on these types of events. Resources or not, you want that behavior change in all of your employees, because the flip side of that is that you have the DOJ knocking on your front door, and that's not what we want, right?
Yeah. And I love that story because it's just proof of everything we're talking about. Like, there's all this combustible material in the organization that just needs a little bit of a spark. It's not like everybody's looking to kind of like pull a couple of bucks out of the till and hide it. But when we can pierce that veil of attention and we can build more of that awareness, we get a lot more tailwinds to the type of culture of integrity that we're trying to build. So I really love that. And, you talked a little bit a couple minutes ago about this thing about speaking engagements. And I have a couple this Compliance Week, and I'm honored to be a part of different organizations, Compliance Week activities. But if you don't have budget for an external speaker, somebody put this in the chat and you kind of alluded to it. The voice of those that they know, the voice of their manager, the voice of executives talking about and singing from the song sheet that the compliance department is trying to, get everybody to sing from can have a disproportionate impact. So, in today's day and age, this is not 1997 anymore. This is not even 2007 anymore, right? There's been this massive democratization of all the things, all the multimedia, or access to all these multimedia tools that can allow us, that have kind of like removed the excuse that we might have. So, okay, you can't pay for a chase, a video guy. Great. You have Zoom or you have, Teams or something like that. And you can record a quick meeting with, an executive who's, reiterating some talking points inside, that are in line with the compliance department or mid-level managers. When somebody hears their manager talk about a compliance topic, that many times resonates a little bit more. And again, I'm not trying to shoot myself in the foot for future speaking engagements, but sometimes that can resonate even more, and that can have even more of an impact when they see not just, they not just hear those words, but they see at sort of a subconscious level how important this stuff is to the organization.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to talk about on this slide is a rule of 7. And Nick, I'm stealing this from you because I've heard you say it many times.
Well, I stole it myself, so don't worry about it.
From your broadcast, the rule of 7, where it says that a customer, potential customer, in this case, our employees, need to encounter a brand's message, our brand being the Ethics and Compliance Program, at least 7 times before taking action. And I think that's so true. And think about this in your own personal life, right? I mean, I have been on the fence about buying this dog bed for my dog Piper for a couple of weeks now. And ever since I have voiced that, I have been getting slammed with all these ads for dog beds, right? So think about that. And I'm about ready to pull the trigger because now it's Prime Day, right? So I'm ready to take an action on that. But think about, that type of issue with your employee. Think about somebody who is on the fence about making a report, and then all of a sudden you host a Global Ethics Day event where you have a guest speaker talking about managerial integrity and promoting a psychologically safe, work environment. And Nick, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I do want to read a couple of comments that we had from last year's Global Ethics Day event. So somebody had walked away from the event, put into the survey comments, said, "I learned about the importance of speaking up. Speaking up is a right thing to do. Some of us have grown up in a don't tattle culture. This has given me food for thought." Another comment was, "This session should be mandatory for all leaders." That one got me really excited because, as you know, our events are, optional. We put them on your calendars. We hope that you can attend or at least watch the replay when you get back. But, getting comments like that, seriously, they reinforced what we were doing or what we were trying to attempt with that particular Global Ethics Day event. So if you're on the fence about hosting one, here's your proof.
Yeah, and we'll just say it. We'll say it 6 more times to really hit that tipping point for you. Hopefully, we can convince you to do something in the organization. But I love that rule of 7. I would almost call it the rule of 7 times 7. You got to hear things 7 times, 7 different ways. And if that's what our intentionality is, it's going to prompt us to figure out new ways to pick the lock. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people inside your organization, hundreds, whatever, that are just waiting for, they're standing at the edge of something and they see the, advertisements, quote unquote, they see the posters on the wall, they read the code of conduct, and they want that to be true. They hope that that's true, that, the stuff we're talking about today, ethical organizations, true cultures of integrity, are much higher on the priority list for the average employee than they were for our grandparents, for example. So what they're all trying to see is okay, well, I hear all this marketing, right? Everybody has bought the, everyone's seen the ad for the Big Mac, and then they buy the Big Mac and they're like, these don't look the same. Or same thing happens at Denny's, no offense, Denny's. But everyone's trying to see how much fakeness is in these advertisements, how much, how authentic is it? And when we can do something that has some physicality to it, right? Which is what we're talking about, right? When it has some physicality, it can really help to close that gap between the words they see on the wall or the words that they see in the code of conduct and what the actual culture is within the organization. And again, things happen little by little and all at once. And it's on us to pick the lock. It's on us to move that ball forward and really build that culture of integrity up in an authentic way.
Absolutely. And so let me move on to some of our budget-friendly strategies, our low-cost, no-cost strategies. So, obviously you want to leverage what you have. So, for us, we have Teams, we have Yammer. I know a lot of people don't have that, and I know some of you guys have Slack. So if you are not advertising in all these different platforms, you're missing out, because I know that when I see some, employee resource group events going on, I may have missed it on my own Outlook calendar, but if a Teams reminder pops up or if something in Yammer pops up, I'll see it there. So make sure you're utilizing all your platforms to the best of your ability and get help from your comms team if you can. My second bullet point is on that. I talk about leveraging your own L&D department and your comms team. So I am just coming off. I literally deployed my code of conduct training yesterday. So I am 24 hours post-event, and I can look back on that and say that my team heavily relied on the L&D department and the comms team to make it a successful launch. And for those of you that are in charge of comms, in charge of L&D, I see you. I appreciate you. If I haven't said that enough, we need your help, and you guys make us look great. And so make best friends with your L&D teams, your comms teams, because they're going to be the people that are going to help you create those internal games. I had a situation where I wanted to launch a conflict of interest campaign, and I had a resource from the L&D department assigned to me. He had not worked with us before on a particular game, and so this was his first time doing so. And it was a win-win for both of us because I got to kind of create what I wanted, and he got to kind of execute on it. So he was able to add this kind of game to his portfolio, and I think he had fun doing it. And he was invested in my success as well. So I'd say, make sure, you're utilizing your teams and make sure you appreciate them and show them some love, at the end of the quarter with some recognition. The third bullet point I want to call out here is for those of you that have, third-party contracts with like an advisory service like Ethisphere or Gartner as an example, make sure you read those contracts carefully because sometimes within them there are line items embedded where they'll say, you will have access to a senior executive, at one of these places at Ethisphere Gartner who will come and speak at one of your North American meetings once a year. So, and if you're in the middle of a renewal and you don't see that, build that in because that's how you're going to get your free speaker for the year because it's already built into your contract. So that's one way that you can save some money. But again, if you don't have the outside, you don't have the funds to bring somebody in from the outside, you just look at your org chart, look at your calendar, look at your org chain and see who is the best speaker, who is my SME that can speak to this about that. I am hosting Global Ethics Day in October, and I am reaching out to people in the UK to be one of my guest speakers for a topic on anti-corruption. And I think he's very excited to do so. Because he's never been asked before, and this is a topic that I think he's very familiar with, and people would probably love to hear from him on it. So again, don't be shy.
I mean, you get a guy with a British accent, forget about it. I mean, instant credibility, right? Anything they say sounds so smart. I mean, the resources are there, and I think to your point with this gentleman. He's never been asked, and he's more than willing to do it. Like, if you don't ask, you don't get. Closed mouths don't get fed in this game, and like we can't sit back. We have to advance, the front. We have to advance that front forward, and that takes some action, and that takes the application of some agency. What's he going to say? No? Who cares? He lives on the other side of the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and if he does say no, at least give me some time. I'll line up somebody else in Germany to speak for me, right? But the point is, get started early. I mean, I'm not hosting my event until October, but now I'm going to give my panelists enough time to figure out their vacation schedules, and so start early. Start very early, and then also visit the SCCE for their celebration ideas. You can Google that very easily because I know I've stolen from them many times before. And then regarding digital and social media engagement, one of the things that I do want to say is there is no shame in recycling. I had a video that I had used for a different purpose, a different campaign, and yet I loved the look of it so much that I went back to my media team and I said, hey, can you just do me a favor, just chop off the ending and just put this on it? And they were more than happy to help because that meant that they didn't have to create something from scratch. So I would say if you have the ability to do that and you have somebody on your media team that you can work with, they'll probably be even happier to know that they don't have to create something from scratch from you and that you're willing to work with some existing video that you have for them. So I would say there's no shame in recycling either.
Yeah, and there's no shame in stealing. Steal early, steal often. If you don't like that term, let's call it creative borrowing. I say this all the time. You get no bonus points for reinventing the wheel. You're automatically going to put your own spin on stuff. Like there are movie directors that have movie after movie that's paying homage to other things. There are some that are even taking the entire soundtrack from an existing movie and applying it to their movie. That's not stealing, that's borrowing it. You know what I'm saying? That's putting your own spin on it. And ideas are free. There's so many ideas out there. I talked about Mary Shirley's book. You talked about the SCCE. We all have access to generative AI. I'm not trying to, make anybody get in trouble here, but you can do that on your personal computer and you can say, I have this kind of an organization. These are the challenges that we're facing. I don't have a budget at all for Compliance Week. I have this kind of a workforce, really kind of prompt it out and say, what are some great ideas that I can have? And it's a great brainstorming tool that's going to spark some ideas that you can kind of take action on. Again, the excuses that our forefathers, quote unquote, had on not being able to, pierce this veil of attention, many of those have gone away. It's just going to take a little bit of creativity and a little application of agency. I wanted to share this post. So checked out this game. I made a game in literally 15 minutes. Next time I do this, I'll record it so you guys can see how easy it is. But if you go to this LinkedIn post, like it if you want, in the comment, there's a link to this artifact, this Claude artifact that is a Compliance Week, ethics and compliance charades game. So it has a bunch of different like emojis, and people have a multiple choice that they can use, and they can guess what's what. So again, it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about creating some action and creating some data points that are going to raise awareness and keep that top of mind. If that gentleman who won those $5,000 tickets didn't have that training recently, the odds are probably a little bit lower that he would have raised his hand and, quote unquote, self-reported. But again, there's all these human sensors in the organization that are just waiting for you to turn them on,
Absolutely. And so I do want to address, some concerns that people had about, their remote audiences, their global audiences. I want to make sure that when you are hosting these types of campaigns, that they are time zone friendly. And I want to share some stats that I have with you regarding our last Ethics Day event. So normally when we host it, it's usually, because I'm based here in, sunny South San Jose, California, it's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, right? And 9 a.m. Pacific time is obviously not ideal for rest of world. And so we decided to, our events are recorded, but let's be honest. I mean, how many people actually take the time and go back and watch a recording? It's more fun to watch it live, I think. But, for those that cannot watch it live, we do make the recording available. But what we did last year is we recognized that, our APAC audiences, our, EMEA audiences could not attend our 9 a.m. session. So we put the recording links on their calendar, Outlook calendars as kind of like a meeting at 9 a.m. their time, the next day. And I will say that I remember getting pinged from my coworker who was in Australia, telling me that she had just watched the event and she thought it was great because, it popped up on her calendar. She didn't have a meeting. She was free. She was able to watch it. And she was like, thanks for making that available because, if it comes out at 9 o'clock our time, they're going to have to search for that Outlook invite, which isn't always readily available. And so as a result of doing that, Nick, I'm going to tell you, and I swear I'm not making this up, our viewership of Global Ethics Day increased 286% as a result of doing so.
That's crazy. That's almost, pat yourself on the back. If I was there, I'd give you one myself. Again, it's there for you. It's like right there for you. We're convincing people to do the things that they want to do. We're convincing people that the culture of integrity that we're proclaiming actually does exist, and they want that to happen. And listen to this great comment from the one and only Jerry Dixon. Jerry, thanks you so much for sharing this. A couple years ago, to ensure our remote-based employees could participate, we did a week-long compliance theater if you are, high-end. We did a week-long compliance theater. Our team created a 30-minute daily lunchtime learning using well-known TV and movie scenes. Think about House and Grey's Anatomy. That were compliance and ethics challenges. The staff absolutely loved it, and remote employees loved that they could participate. There was another comment a little bit earlier where somebody was saying, I'm a remote employee and I many times feel left out. Those are still risk sensors in the organization. Those are still stakeholders that we want to engage. Jerry went on to say, our HR department and employee engagement supplied prizes, and our team had stickers of our compliance mascot. These stickers were a hit with people, from our MAs to our CEO, and they would show off those stickers on their notebooks and mugs. I guarantee the marketing department has some T-shirts and some swag that is in a closet somewhere. You got to get that stuff, and you got to make this thing fun. And one other thing I want to say is, like, make your program your own. you have this job for a reason. You are cool. You are smart. You know what your organization needs. The more you can humanize your program, the better. The funner you can make it. Again, we're trying to pierce this veil of attention. Everybody watches the same shows on Netflix, maybe Love Island. Everybody watches the same, movies and stuff like that. Pulling that media into your compliance week and showing a perspective that maybe they didn't see, and showing them how these things exist all around us, right? Like these risks that we're trying to extinguish and mitigate within our organization exist all around us. And that pattern interrupt for all human beings is wildly, wildly powerful. We are pattern recognition machines. And when they're expecting something stale from a compliance department and instead they get something fresh, or they get something fun, or they get something funny, that does a lot to stack the deck in our favor.
I do want to also bring up another comment that was made on our last Global Ethics Day event. So we had to create everything internally because, in terms of resources like toolkit and things like that. Because we had spent all our money on the guest speaker. But I will say that in the comments section for Global Ethics Day event, I'm going to paraphrase this. She said, I took a look at your site and the toolkit. Great toolkit. Thanks for sharing. And I want to say that, like I said, we had to create that in-house using our own resources. I'm going to give a shout out to my teammate Annalise because she's listening right now, but she did a great job. And to be honest, if you didn't know it, you would have thought that the marketing department had designed that for us. But Annalise is getting very savvy with PowerPoint right now, and that's what we need to do. We need to build up our own experience and resources with the things that we can build on our own. And also, if you have access to other libraries, if you have a third-party library that you're using, oftentimes they have posters or toolkits that are downloadable that you can actually change the logo, put links to your own policies into it, things like that. So it does look like it's your own, and that you've spent a lot of time working on it. So I would say, whether or not you realize it, you actually probably have an entire marketing library at your fingertips that you're just not leveraging right now.
Love it.
I'm going to move on to this next slide. This is the conflicts of interest game that I had previously mentioned. This is just screenshots from it, but as you can see, the designer had created this cute little game here, and at the bottom where it says found 0 of 8. So there are 8 different things that you could find that have conflict of interest issues in it. And then, like, for example, that pink post-it note in the corner, if you click on that, it'll come up with this explanation here. So this is just a cute little quick game that, like I said, my L&D designer had made for me, but something that kind of will drive home the point. And you can use actual examples from reports or from an actual working situation to make it more real to the employees. And I can say that when you do that too, also in like your code of conduct trainings or your Global Ethic Day events, and bring in real live case examples, but anonymize it, you'll get a ton more engagement because people can see themselves within that case. They'd be like, oh, you know what? I think, John was talking about that the other day. I heard about something like that. And so, if you can make it real and realistic, I would say go for it, and, try and anonymize it, of course. The next slide here is another one that we creatively borrowed. This is the game called Real or Real. And, basically, we, just kind of put out this cute little fun game where people had to guess whether or not it was a real life situation that actually happened, or was it an actual movie. And I'm like a big fan of movies, so things like this are really fun for me. And if you read this thing over there on the right, the city comptroller, that's actually it's a real situation that actually happened, but that's also a real movie. So if you haven't caught the movie All the Queen's Horses, I would check it out on Netflix. There are so many different types of compliance types of movies that you could use for a situation like this. And this is just like a fun little game that people can play, during, a compliance week campaign. And then after they click on, real or real, they'll get an explanation around it and maybe the policy that's behind the situation as well. So, a great way to promote your policies and your guidelines here as well.
So I love this idea. And if you don't watch a lot of movies, or you don't think that you're that creative, again, you can really leverage AI in some smart ways to do this. Spending 15 minutes on a chat with AI to say, I'm trying to achieve this, give me a list of 100 movies that have compliance violations tied to these issues in my, pull it from your code of conduct or whatever. It's going to spit out a bunch of those. And again, a lot of these things that would have taken so long 2 or 3 years ago, you can really knock out in 15 minutes. That game I just shared, like I said, that took 15 minutes to build, and it came out with 10 scenarios, and I was like, that's not enough, let's do 20. I did some massaging with it. I turned it into something that had multiple choice because I was like failing it miserably. Don't get any ideas. Don't, that doesn't mean I don't know anything about compliance, okay? But it's so easy. It's so easy to really to make this kind of an impact. You don't have to be a coder anymore. You don't have to be a graphic designer anymore to generate some of these artifacts in real time that you can leverage within your organization. And again, think about those 2 layers of communication, right? When you put something like this out, there's that sort of base level of communication of them interacting with it. But then there's this sort of overarching, or call it the subconscious communication, that helps to reframe and rebrand your program. When we have to move away from this thing where people want to give us the stiff arm when they hear compliance, or they don't want to quote unquote get in trouble, or they've been told snitches get stitches their whole lives or whatever, when we can reframe that and we can shatter that perspective and we can get more engagement into this risk management apparatus that we're trying to balance and build for our organization, our job becomes so much easier. And then that base level, Maslow's base level sort of concern we have of self-preservation can start to get extinguished. We can start to see with data points in other areas, we can start to see the effectiveness of our program improve. But again, this is not a game that you can do alone. Nobody can do compliance alone. Nobody can do ethics or HR or any of these things alone. We need the engagement of folks.
Absolutely. All right. So, and I do want to share with you just snapshots of our last couple of corporate compliance week campaigns that we had. And, and I've seen the comments here, you've got remote employees, right? How are you engaging them? And, to be honest, this is how we're doing it. We are just, putting stuff out there on our intranet. We're trying to advertise in as many platforms as we can internally, but this is where it's at right now. It has to be online, but just because it's online doesn't mean it has to be boring. So as you can see in the on the left hand side, that was one of the years where we had the benefit of using stuff from our learning library, and we had pulled some videos. Micro-learning videos. I believe we also, took some of their campaigns and posters and made it our own. And then we selected different topics for that particular week. And at a prior company, when we did this, it was the same thing, each day was a different topic, and maybe there was a message delivered from a different VP as well. So I think if you can get that, upper level engagement, maybe a quote from them or even a short video from them saying, this is why you need to read our, FCPA policy, or this is why you need to learn more about conflicts of interest. I mean, that's, even better endorsement for your program.
Yeah, and again, there's this thing called the recency effect. So the reason that 7 times 7 ways works so well is because there's a constant drip campaign, so to speak, on a particular topic. And so when you can listen, no one's going to, memorize the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, right? But if they can just remember that it exists, again, going back to that example you gave of the gentleman who won those tickets, he recently heard about this topic, and that sparked his memory and his in his RAM and in his brain to say, oh, this might be a violation. I don't want to go ahead and violate that. There's so, again, I love Compliance Week. I love this topic because it's such an opportunity for us to exhibit some creativity and really level our programs up, no pun intended, for the featured book today, but we can really level our programs up, and by leveling up the amount of awareness, or the level of awareness and the level of engagement throughout the organization.
Yeah, and so like I said, Nick, I mean, I just launched my code of conduct training just yesterday. And so I'm going to be having my Global Ethics Day event in October, my Corporate Compliance Week in November. So I feel like that's enough distance, from the training for people to feel like, they're not saturated with all this information, because I get it. People are slammed with quarter end activities, people are slammed with training. But I feel like, this is a kind of a good enough period of time for people to kind of take a step back and refresh themselves on the different policies. I know that in our company, sometimes when, we have, data privacy or cybersecurity stuff, they do it a little bit differently, and they'll send out, different, emails about it. And sometimes, it's like a phishing email just to see if you're really paying attention to stuff, right? But nobody really wants to feel like, oh, well, I've failed this. Now I got to take another training. That's exactly what we don't want people to feel like. But we also don't want people to feel like, well, I've done the code of conduct training. I'm done with ethics for the year. Come back, next year when I need to check that box again. I'm hoping that people don't feel that, and I'm hoping that Global Ethics Day event, Corporate Compliance Week events kind of renew their excitement over all things ethical. I know I get excited about it. I would hate to be the person stuck next to me at a dinner party, and have them ask me, what do you do for a living? Because they would probably get an earful about what I actually do. And so I would hope that, when people see these types of events, they recognize that we are actually just trying to make better corporate citizens out of all of you. Like I said, we don't want DOJ knocking on our front door. And we want to make sure that, we pass that sniff test, that we've provided all the resources to people, especially the reporting resources. I remember getting a comment after one of these events saying, could you send out, the links to the reporting channels every once in a while? Because, when we don't use them, you forget where they are. And
Right.
And that's a great reminder to us. That's exactly it. I mean, I don't always remember, where to go to call my doctors. I have to look it up and stuff like that. But, if there's a reminder periodically, that'll like jog your memory. Oh, it's time for me to make an appointment, with my doctor. And it's like, oh, maybe it's time for me to go back and revisit some of this learning that, I had trouble with the first time. So I would say for people that think that you are going to be saturating your employees with it, I would say do not feel that way at all. Do not, because ethics is a good thing, and we all need to jump on that bandwagon before the DOJ comes knocking on our doors.
Yeah, and again, no marketing team is worried about advertising too much. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
we need to take a page from that playbook, and we need to be talking about it constantly and reminding folks all the time. And, part of this, if our job is really to serve the stakeholders in our organization, we can really help them help us by making it easy to engage in, the being a better corporate citizen by just simply by keeping it top of mind and engaging that goal seek mechanism that every human being has in the 4-pound nuclear reactor that's between their brains. Just keeping that front of mind, top of mind, whatever, is going to open people's eyes to the occurrence of things that we want to know about. I want to share this thing from Wendy, the one and only Wendy Badger. Wendy, thank you so much. She said, during the first compliance week I organized, we played Hollywood Squares, where senior leaders played the squares. We included a mix of industry, organization, regulatory, and, quote, fun fact type questions. The audience needed to decide whether they agreed or disagreed with the answer given by leadership. They ended up getting tested without feeling like they could, quote, fail, back to your point, Kara. And they learned fun facts about our leadership team. So that's a great idea. Any of these games that we like to watch, or that our parents like to watch, back when people watched game shows, there are literal multitude of like creators online, right? So last year, I think in our Compliance Week toolkit that Ethico put out, we had a Jeopardy game. And we leveraged ChatGPT, and we put in a bunch of topics, and we had it spit out, 80 questions or something. And then we selected the ones we liked most. And then we went over to this, Jeopardy game creator thing, and we uploaded the text file, and boom, now we had a unique link that people could leverage or change on their own. That whole thing took 20 minutes. So like, it does not take that long. And again, if you don't want to come up with all those questions yourself, get get more questions than you need from from the generative AI that you use, and pick the ones that matter most, or make the small tweaks to make them more specific to your business or more specific to your industry. But any one of these games can be created online very, very easily without any like coding knowledge at all,
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Nick. I think AI is going to be a game changer, with this, with these campaigns. So like, for those folks that have chimed in earlier and said, I have no budget, no resources, Chat GPT is going to be your best low cost, no cost resource for things like this. I mean, to get your first one started, it will take a little doing. I know, because obviously I had to start somewhere, and, I did it all on my own before I had a team. But, it just takes that first step. And now, come August, when my SVP goes to her board, I'm going to have like a very comprehensive slide for her to say, this is all that we've done. This is all that we've accomplished. These are all the campaigns we run. These are all the infographics that we've created for, the employees. And so I would say, do it now. Like I said, I keep saying, I sound like a broken door. Do it now before the DOJ comes knocking.
There's so many great points in here. I think William made this point about trying to incorporate statistics in this stuff. So you probably have a case management system. You probably have data points that you can show, or you can probably anonymize cases to prove your organization's commitment to protecting whistleblowers or to encourage more of that behavior. Back to that comment that you read, Kara, at the beginning of the conversation. Share some of the progress that your program has made. Share some of the improvements that have been made in terms of speak up, or in terms of case closure time, or in terms of, honoring whistleblowers and so forth. There's somebody who spoke up inside your organization over the last 2 years who would be more than willing, who had a great experience, who felt like their voice was heard, who would be willing to come on camera, again, through Zoom, in person, just record it yourself and share that experience. That, think about when you're on Instagram and you hear a customer testimonial, that always seems more compelling than, some disembodied voice telling you how great the product is. Our product is risk intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Our product is people engaging in our channels for communication of this risk intelligence. And when we can have some firsthand accounts from folks to sprinkle into our compliance week communications, or into those reminders that maybe you're sending out every month to say, here's your hotline number, or you can always go to your manager, or a reminder of how they can speak up and the protections that are in place, it can do a lot to unlock this. The next 10 years in our space can look wildly different than the last 10 years, but it's going to take us, all the people on this call, practitioners who are day-to-day trying to, traverse this mountain of risk. It's going to take us thinking about our roles a little bit differently and showing up in a different way. Like we are at this tipping point where it can look wildly, wildly different. And if you have not done Compliance Week, or you've never celebrated National Whistleblower Day, now's the time to do it. So, man, somebody said we got to publish this chat. This is one of the most active chats we've ever seen. We're at 5,000 emojis, so that's a win. Okay, I love it. Kara, where can people learn some more about you and steal some more of your ideas?
Well, I want to steal from them too. So I did put my LinkedIn into the chat. So hopefully you can find me. I'll paste it again, and we can connect. If you are in the midst of thinking about creating your first Global Ethics Day or your first Corporate Compliance Week, and you need to find out where to start, please, hit me up and we can talk about it.
So we got a couple of minutes left, and we got a question in the chat that I did not get to, and I would love for everybody in the chat to tune into this, or to respond to this as me and Kara talk about it. But this is from Aaron. Aaron, thanks so much for this question. How would you get awareness or information to employees in production facilities? That's my challenge, right? The challenge being these folks are maybe not in front of a computer all the time. They're on the line. Some of this might be the same in a healthcare facility where there's a lot of people who are on the floor, not in front of their computer all the time. So what are some tactics and techniques? I got a couple off the top of the head here to engage these folks, because again, those are ample sources for risk intelligence. And before you answer, I just want to make this other point. Yes, I think our job is to help everybody be better corporate citizens, but I think there's a step beyond that. It's like, to what end? Is it just because that's nice? I would say no. I would say a healthy ethics and compliance department is driving more excellence in the business. It's driving more. It's improving the professionalization. It's driving a higher business quality throughout the organization. All of that stuff translates into more enterprise value. So you can always find something that's overarching to tie your efforts into. If it's a healthcare facility or you're in healthcare, maybe you're tying to the overarching thing that's better patient care, right? Better healthcare kind of outcomes. In whatever organization you are in, there's some kind of purpose statement that you should be able to connect into, so that this doesn't feel like it's a compliance thing. It's not a compliance thing. It's a business quality thing. It's an excellence thing. It's a we're improving the business thing. Okay, so back to Aaron's question. When we're talking about a production facility where everybody's not in front of a computer or on their phones all day, what are some smart strategies you think to engage them in this type of an activity?
Yeah, and I have been in that situation, at a prior company when there were people working, on the floor and weren't in front of a computer. First of all, I would rely on managers. That person's manager needs to be telling those people about it, about these types of, events that are going on, about trainings that they need to take. Because if they're not on a computer, 8 hours a day like we are from 9 to 5, their manager is, the first source to contact. But also, I saw the other comments there about the TVs, the TV sets that are, located on site. We used to do that as well as, billboards and, other type of standing posters, things like that. But it is a challenge. And I don't have to, unfortunately, I don't have to deal with that right now. But, I definitely, felt that pain when, we had, not 100% completion on our, compliance trainings, in the past, because there were people who couldn't get to a computer. So I would say it starts with the person's manager, at least, to make them aware that things like this are happening.
That's a great idea. Another thing that I've seen work really well is in most facilities, there's some kind of a break room and there's some kind of a TV on the wall. You can have IT if that's plugged into the network, or you can have local leaders plug in a USB that has maybe a slide deck that has some of these things. We just have to figure out a way to scatter more of these seeds. We have to have this Johnny Appleseed mindset where look, we have all the trees in America because of Johnny Appleseed. So round of applause for Johnny Appleseed. But he wasn't so worried about every single acorn turning into an oak tree. He's just throwing seeds all over the place. And some are going to work, some are going to take root, some are not. All good. This is a game of it's a people business, of course, but it's a game of incrementalism and it's a game of influence. And so it's going to take our actions to really kind of shake things up. And one last point. This should have maybe been a 90-minute session. But one last point is, doing something as physical, as tangible as a compliance week, or constant 7x7 reiteration of what our goals are, can do so much for your own job security. In rooms that you're not in, you want people advocating for you, right? That's what we all need if we're ever worried about our job security. And when we do something that's tangible and we do something that affects everybody, the odds of that making an impact on those decision makers, I would love someone to say, man, well, who's going to do compliance week? We can't get rid of this function. We can't, dial that down. So we have to stack the deck in our favor, both from a impact perspective inside of our organization, right? In terms of crowdsourcing risk intelligence, as we always say, a la the great Hemalomax. But we also have to stack the deck in our favor for our own job security. So listen, the world is yours. Take fate into your hands, grab the steering wheel of your life and grab the steering wheel of your program and drive it forward. Thank you all for participating in the chat. Let's get one more massive emoji explosion for Kara. This was so fun. My gosh, look at that. Hour went so fast. Let's see what we got up to today, because I live and die by this. Oh my gosh, almost 6,000 emojis. I love it. Thank you all for coming. We got another great episode next week. If you missed today's episode, you're not even listening to this. But if you missed Tuesday's episode, where we were talking about open payments, definitely go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to me on LinkedIn, and definitely subscribe, if nothing else, to the Ethico channel on LinkedIn, because that's where you can stay in tune with all this content that's coming out. So love you all. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone.